we could either, Sam, if you have like a, sort of another longer form idea that you want to go through it right now. But if not, we can sort of just bounce through some smaller micro ideas and, just use the last 10 minutes of the pod for that. And I actually had an idea that I wanted to bring up that I think it kind of connects to things that both of you guys were already saying. So you'll find this interesting. So I I was looking at this website that's called Gummy Search, and it basically just indexes what subreddits are trending. And one of the top trending subreddits, if you categorize only by smaller subreddits, it's this one that's called Ask Old People Advice. It's grown by like 600% in the last year. It has like 30,000 members. So it kind of made me think like, all right, so there's this sort of content machine that is kind of already existing on Reddit for this specific topic. And a very common method for making TikTok channels go is just repurposing Reddit content, of course. So, that's not necessarily what I'm talking about here, but the idea is to create content that is, getting someone who is elderly on camera and having them just, give advice for somebody who may have sent in an anonymous question or something like that. And, build this TikTok around that. But while you're building this TikTok, while you're building this audience of just people that are interested in getting advice from old people, and as you're doing that, you're going to naturally be looking for old people to be in your videos. So in doing that, while that's all happening, build a talent agency that specializes in UGC from elderly people, essentially, and focus only on that niche. And the way that you get your name out there essentially is all driven by this TikTok, or you could also expand it to different avenues like YouTube. I'm sure it would do well there, but sort of base it all around this media that you're creating with with the people that you're representing in this talent agency, because you don't really just want to start up an agency that's just called like the Old People Agency, you know.
OPA.
It just doesn't look good. Like, how are you gonna find talent and say, hey, yeah, I'm here. I'd like to recruit you into the Old People Agency.
Yeah, you look old.
It's not fun. It's just not dirt. It's dirty. I don't think that's like what we want to do here. So that's why I would suggest building a brand around it and centering it around this media that's all getting created, and validating your claim as an agency, which is that, working with old creators gives you, gives you an actual edge depending on what it is that you're trying to sell. It sort of connects, especially to yours, Sam. Well, immediately I just started thinking like, wow, imagine the movies that you could have being recreated by a bunch of talent that you have that are like 70 plus.
Yeah. Yeah, like recreating Spy Kids with 70-year-olds or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there you go. The Spy Kids, it's perfect. Anything. It doesn't matter. People will eat that up.
Yeah.
So
there's also something so funny about old people, like just innately, you know what I mean? And like not in a rude way, but like my little sister, she's 16 years old and she goes and visits this like old like woman like weekly at this like old folks home because she's just so like she's just fascinated by this woman, her stories, and the concept itself of like just an old folks home where all these people, all the lives that they've lived, and like the stories they have, and like the personality that these people could bring to like an agency like this is can bring some real cool cats.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's obviously this deep, meaningful approach, but then there's also infinite memeability. Obviously, all of that combined together, I think, could create another similar to the weird business card store idea. It's another business that I think maybe a small, like a couple people are running this company that's very lean and could probably make quite a bit of money from the content alone once you're tapping into things like the creator fund and stuff like that, if the content is doing well. And even if it isn't, the content is really all just a pipeline for your UGC agency anyways. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's no way to lose on that one. Runda, what do you think of this idea? Like, do you have a roast for it or anything?
I think it's like the most easiest avenue is just like get the seasonal stuff out of the way. Like every brand now can own a Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Just like, even with like elder creators, I feel like to marketers, they might not even understand exactly like what's the most applicable thing. Where like if I were to just like start this thing initially, now I'm just like thinking, maybe Santa Claus is the simple thing, the easiest low-hanging fruit to go to market with this idea. You just provide Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus to every brand digitally to have like every brand have a Santa takeover. And then there's so many brands in the US and Canada combined. You would just like have a North American dominion on like all the Santa material and just to initially capture that market. But then when like any of these older traders, they get like traction somehow in their Santa in their local market, then you kind of like stream into like, oh yeah, the sage advice, or maybe there's like a health guru kind of senior that's like in a space, or like the elder trader that's interested in coin collection or their China collection, and just like go from there. Something like this for brands initially to get traction, they just need that like simple get to understand, oh yeah, this is the thing we need immediately, and then you upsell from there.
Yeah, thinking about Santa Claus content now.
I another sort of like end avenue that you could take with this, that just sort of that I feel like I could just connect to this. I work with some restaurants for their social media, and something that I've actually always wanted to do with, I don't know which is the right client to test this on. So, if that's you listening to this podcast, hit me up. But basically, I think it would be really cool to assign a creator, and again, like an elder creator, to be the brand face of a restaurant for their social media. I'm talking about doing that on like a multi-year contract where, maybe you sort of, go through an actual recruitment process and take it pretty seriously, and then sign on with them for maybe like 3 or 5 years, something like that. And you just generate a bunch of content with them and use them sort of as the face of a restaurant. It's an industry that relies so much on having not only a brand story, but also a personality that is directly attached to it. Some restaurants are able to do that by having like a really personable owner, or maybe they're hiring promoters. There's many ways to use personality to bring people into places, but I think that just assigning an elder model to be the face of a restaurant and just sort of position it as if they're the owner without without saying that they're not the owner, and making them this character that maybe even physically shows up at the restaurant. I think that would be such a cool thing to try out, that it's not something that you need to be a big restaurant or have a huge budget to do something like that. You could probably pull something like that off with a shoestring budget or with no budget. You would just need to you obviously would need to recruit someone that's really good. So that's where the cost may come up, or it may not. It just depends on how lucky you are, I guess.
You know what's one thing that's super crazy that I can totally think of that a B2B market might use this? So I went into this one webinar. It's this one webinar that I think it was the Bain Consulting Group that was pushing out this annual research that they do. Within this webinar, the rest of the Bain people, the consulting group people, look just like normal consulting guys. They look like someone that worked in finance with your Patagonia vest and everything. One guy that was presenting this material, I swear to God, this guy looked like the world's most interesting man from Dos Equis. His entire background and he looked like a character. With this, it could have been staged. I was just like, is this the actual guy, or am I seeing the real person that's doing it? I mean, this could have been a paid actor.
Yeah, there's so many people out there in the wild that you just want to go up to and just say hey, can I just film a video of you right now?
Yeah. Yeah. In a sense, looking different stands out, and this day and age stands out in such a good way. Because there are so many influencers and content creators who I find it feels like a lot of their shtick is the same as the next. So, being different, like you saying, Rhonda, this guy standing out, looking so different from the rest, it clearly makes an impact. You know what I mean? And then having like Josh for a restaurant, having an old person be the face of it. That's so something that you might not expect this day and age, when everybody who's the face of something is, mid-20s and in perfect shape and so beautiful. And you know what I mean? So being able to be different in this day and age, I think is crucial and so important. You know what I mean?
I think it's the type of thing that slowly it will just naturally shift in this direction as more people just become tech literate. And also as tech literate people get older, we will naturally have more old people on the internet and understanding all of these things. But I think that right now there's that opportunity to accelerate it and, go out to make it worthwhile to go out there and put something like this together, because there's probably an opportunity to make money and go viral, which is what we're all about here at this podcast.
Yes. This podcast is a viral idea. When I first heard about
one day, maybe.
No, guys, when I first heard about your podcast, I'm like, okay, this isn't two guys who are coming and just, chatting it up. There's a lot of purpose to this podcast, and I respect that a lot. And that's why, I really appreciate you guys asking me to come on, especially as one of your early guests. But this, it stuck out to me when I first heard about it. So kudos to you guys for thinking outside the box.